So, I had scripted and recorded footage for this review months ago, but had never gotten around to editing it together into a proper review due to life, work, my other interests, and other stuff like that. And when I recently revisited what I recorded in the hopes of perhaps finally doing something with it, it was not good, quite frankly. Trying to tie Disney, Shonen Jump, and brands together and haphazardly connect it to an anime review will do that, I guess. But I still really want to talk about it, so I now hereby present the My Hero Academia review, Take 2. Unlike the ultra-belated Sword Art Online 2 review, there's a perfect occasion for doing a review so late of this. The announcement that Season 2 of My Hero Academia is upcoming. And that is a goddamn excellent thing, because I'll be straight up. Based on what can now be considered the first season, broadcasted during the spring 2016 period, this is a very worthwhile watch. Actually, no, that undersells this series. My Hero Academia is not just worthwhile, it is an accomplishment. And how so? Well, by single-handedly aging superhero stories 20 years younger. That point, compared to right now, would put us on when I was growing up in the 90s and 2000s. Things were very different then, in the sense that it felt like superheroes were for the kids. There was a big reason for that, actually. Back then, as far as the mainstream was concerned, kids practically were the main target audience. It's kind of hard to remember at this point, considering we've been steeped for so long now in the era of superhero comic movies and overall geek culture being so much closer to the forefront of society, but things were not always that way. For the longest time, mainstream society had treated comics and superheroes as very unserious mediums, which would then lead to assumptions that they were the domain of children. Yes, despite Watchmen, despite The Dark Knight Returns or The Killing Joke, or Demon in a Bottle, or any other number of quote-unquote mature works. So, although comic fans knew what was up, that didn't quite extend to the average John Doe, particularly when many of the most well-known superhero works of days past were things like the Hanna-Barbera Super Friends cartoons and the 60s Batman series, i.e. they were considered pure camp, which, from what I can understand, can largely be blamed on the Comics Code Authority that had been running things at the time. It's the same strain of "it's for kids" stereotyping that's plagued video games, cartoons, and hey, anime too. There is lots about that to dislike, but the focus did lead to a particular sensibility about superheroes that is undoubtedly childlike. Unbridled joy. The feeling that having superpowers or being super talented was awesome. That being a hero saving the day was awesome. That kicking some villain ass was awesome. A superhero was the thing to be. Even with the likes of Batman the Animated Series having rather mature stories from time to time, it still felt overall like children-owned superheroism. But a couple of X-Men movies, a couple of Spider-Man films, one Dark Knight trilogy, and a whole Marvel Cinematic Universe later, look where we are now. A world where an animated adaptation of The Killing Joke, in all its brutal and apparently problematic glory, got made, complete with the animated Batman series as Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill reprising their roles, and the people involved touting its R rating because of how much they'd be able to delve into the dark, disturbing depths of the original comic. We got Deadpool. Goddamn Deadpool in theaters with Valentine's Day advertisements for it. We've been through a decade and a half of PG-13 superhero flicks, with many being massive financial successes. Comics-originated media has transcended being mainstream kids' entertainment to now being straight-up mainstream, and if that weren't enough, traditionally geek and nerd interests in general have become so much more societally accepted now than even a decade ago, even including anime. And for longtime geeks like myself, It's pretty awesome to witness such a state of affairs, but it did also have at least one major side effect. Given their newly found stature, superhero stories on average now aim much higher in age than they used to. To be clear, that is not a quality judgment. I've actually been overall pretty happy with the last 5 years of comic book movies, for example, spanning from the Avengers to, honest to God, Batman v Superman, but that right there is also very telling. Even though both movies are damn near polar opposites, the minimum parental rating between the two of them is PG-13, meaning that even the Boundless Optimism is more adult and older teen-oriented these days. And in the anime world, the anime superhero series that directly preceded My Hero Academia, which was the massive One Punch Man, goes squarely for those same sensibilities. Once again though, nothing about that is to suggest that I feel like going older made anything worse, but it's most certainly made them different, and I've evidently lived in the new normal for long enough to be caught thoroughly off guard by a superhero tale that doesn't aim to fulfill adult-like sensibilities. My Hero Academia, rather, is a story where having superpowers or being super talented is awesome, where being a hero saving the day is awesome, where kicking some villain ass is awesome. A superhero is the thing to be, full stop. Granted, having the ideals of yesteryear isn't so noteworthy on its own, and I'm especially skeptical about nostalgia plays most of the time. But being utterly fantastic and then channeling all of that goodwill into said ideals? Okay, now we're really getting somewhere with this. My Hero Academia doesn't merely harken back to what being a superhero-loving child was like, it full-on replicates the experience. It reminds me of something from my Sword Art Online 2 review that I believe is central to that entire series' appeal. Will the experience of watching this still be akin to feeling like you're 14 years old and on top of the world, even in ways that are embarrassing to admit? Come on, you know the answers to all of this already. Well, watching My Hero Academia, it made me feel like I was 8. So why don't we go into explaining a little about why that is the case? First thing I want to point out, this show is stylish as hell. It's practically a Technicolor comic book in motion, between the bright-ass colors along with how they're shaded together and the exaggerated character designs. Like, just look at this. It's like the trademark Shonen Jump style had a baby with Japan's version of Western superheroes, and the baby is raw brilliance. My personal favorite is probably the model American hero, with oversized muscles that make Johnny Bravo whimper, hair horns, and the hugest, most ridiculous smile, and his name is All Might, and he calls out his moves like he's Goku or some shit, and the moves all reference American cities. Like, look, I love every ounce of this, and all of the characters, from the protagonist, Izuku, to jerk-talented childhood acquaintance Bakugo, to this creepy-ass superpowered teacher, to cheerful bowl-headed Uraraka, to frog girl Tsuyu, to evil Captain Facepalm. All of them play at the same level. In the past couple anime reviews, I had been talking about series where characterization seemed to be their Achilles heels, but My Hero Academia does not have such a problem. It overflows with character, and that gets combined with sheer technical muscle powering everything, considering its goddamn studio bones putting it all together, stewards behind the likes of Soul Eater, both Full Metal Alchemist shows, Captain Earth, and the also excellent Mob Psycho 100 from the following summer 2016 season. And they're on their A-game here. There's superhero action galore, and Bones is a perfect fit for it, making it plenty awesome, and occasionally intense when necessary too. It's also well directed outside of battles. The comedy game is especially on point, with at least one one-liner so hilariously tasty it should go down as an instant classic, and if any of you know the significance of Deku Desu, hopefully you agree. Finally, childlike glee is baked right into the story, the world building, and the place of the main character, Izuku, in everything. The overarching concept alone is a double whammy of wish fulfillment whiplash. To start, My Hero Academia takes place in a world where extraordinary powers and abilities, here called quirks, are so commonplace that 80% of the world population has them. That is a dream come true. Also, As a minor aside, I appreciate that there is a coherent system underlying the superpowers, which is leagues better than both major comics universes, as well as a reasonable sense of scale, i.e. each character only has one quirk, as opposed to the superpower arms race of characters like Superman. But whiplash moments number 1. Izuku is among the 20% of people who have no quirk, despite being one of the people who most wants to become a superhero. That is just crushing, yet Izuku is still so devoted to being heroic that he does exhaustive research and note-taking on all of the heroes and villains that he can, and still wants to apply to a prestigious hero training high school despite being quirkless and coming up against heavy discouragement from the explosively quirked and arrogant Bakugo. He's practically tailor-made for cheering on. And then comes whiplash moment number 2. The details surrounding it are massively spoilery, but Izuku's quirklessness does not last, and most of why that happens comes down to his exceptional character and innately heroic nature. He got it because he was worthy of it, which brings things right the hell back to making dreams come true, but now it's even more intense and substantial thanks to the bitter taste of prior disappointment. Look, the whole damn setup is practically engineered to feel boundlessly awesome. You could even say there's something Disney-esque about how perfect things end up, and usually I would be critical of such a thing for artificiality and blatant emotional manipulation, but My Hero Academia is so well executed and has endless reserves of heart and charm that it's impossible to not get swept up in the moment. When Izuku proved his heroic worth once and for all, and was recognized for it by the most crucial person possible, I felt emotions. My girlfriend really felt emotions at the same point, and there was nothing either of us could do to prevent it. My Hero Academia then does the smartest thing possible after endowing Izuku with a quirk of his own. Not making him immediately overpowered, and explaining it in a bullshit-free way that makes perfect sense. Izuku is actually still the underdog the whole way through, and in a masterstroke of brilliance, the newfoundedness of his powers are the main factor why. Because he never exercised his powers before entering UA High School, he's forced to work around significantly more limitations than everyone else. Thus, going through superhero high school is never an easy journey for him, and that makes his growth and experiences compelling. To steal one of my girlfriend's thoughts, because she really hits the nail on the head here, Izuku is a close parallel to Eiichiro, the main protagonist of tennis anime Baby Steps. Both do the note-taking thing, yes, but Izuku also experiences the same persistence and ingenuity to compensate for constantly being 10 steps behind everyone else. As it is with Eiichiro, success never just gets handed to Izuku. Even the quirk he earns is no mere instant gratification reward, but rather something he must develop and practice, particularly because with his inexperience, using his powers takes a severe physical toll on him. The character conflict doesn't end with him gaining powers, basically. It actually gets more complex, and provides ever more reasons to want to root for the guy. This is stellar protagonist work, especially for a superhero show. As a direct result, My Hero Academia completely earns its multiple amazing moments, not just being nice-looking, flashy spectacle, but feeling genuinely amazing because at the center are characters worth giving a damn about. It also gets far more mileage out of the more rote elements of the narrative, like the eventual face-off with a group of villains, than a lesser show could. If there's one thing I would seriously criticize about My Hero Academia, it's the bad deeds take place within school grounds trope that's existed ever since Voldemort first stalked the halls of Hogwarts in the Harry Potter books. The prospect of villains setting out to perform conspiracy and nefariousness at this one school is absurd on its face, but I've also grown entirely tired of it as a narrative device. That said, though, does it seriously dampen the show's impact? Hell no. And that's literally the only flaw I find noteworthy enough to mention here. This series, as it stands, is top of its class, and that brings us to the conclusion. My Hero Academia is a reinvigorating kick in the ass for superhero stories. By translating the sheer joy of a superhero-loving little kid into an audio-visual experience that people of all ages can comprehend, at a time when costumed people with crazy powers and abilities largely exist to cater to the adults in the room, it is a vital accomplishment. I am hugely looking forward, safe to say, to seeing where the series goes next. And that's that. If you'd like to leave any thoughts or start some discussions about the series or this review, reach out in the comments section below or over Kinja, Twitter, or Tumblr. And until next time, this has been Justin for RedStripe Reviews. Thank you for watching.